Welcome to the BS Report. Taping this at a really weird hour. It's like 6:30 here on the West Coast in the studio right now. Louis C.K. How are you?
Good. How are you?
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Quite a year for
Do
you.
a lot of people listen to this, or do they watch it a lot? What's the most often way that they take
listen.
it in?
Yeah, we're
okay.
going to slice a couple clips from this for the interwebs.
Okay.
Which you have thrown yourself into.
Yes.
With this comedy special.
Yep.
Now, it's pretty interesting. It seems like you really wanted to cut out the middleman and create this website. $5, PayPal, stream it. You wrote a thing about please don't torrent this or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't understand that whole world either.
I don't get it. I don't know
What made you say I need to cut out the middleman for this?
Well, I didn't want to cut out the middleman. I just didn't need one. You know what I mean? Like that, to me, cutting one out would be a workaround something you're used to needing.
Right.
But there wasn't any reason to have somebody there. I just thought, make this thing and put it up. I've put things on the internet before, on YouTube and stuff. Once in a while, I put clips on YouTube.
Yeah.
And people watch them. They go viral and stuff. And so I was getting ready to do this special, and it's mine. I mean, I didn't ask for somebody's permission to do it. I just rented the theater. I got the booking at the Beacon.
You paid for everything yourself?
Yeah, I paid for it all. And also, I produce a TV show with no help from anybody. So I just use my company and my employees, and let's get 6 cameras and shoot the show. I've done it before. I did a special that I made myself a couple years ago called Hilarious.
Yep.
And the big idea there was to make it a movie that you go to see in a theater, like old concert films. And so that was something I tried, and it did okay. And then this time I thought...
But when you tried it, you weren't as... You've gone up a notch in terms of notoriety, I would say.
Yeah,
right?
since I made that, definitely. Yeah, the series has really given me a lot. This is the first special I've done since I've had the series.
Yeah.
And so I thought, what... And also, people don't really see... There's not a good model for stand-up specials right now. There's not a thing like when George Carlin would do an HBO special and it was a big deal. They're on sometimes and nobody really watches them. Nothing draws people to the specials. So I thought, maybe if I put it somewhere unusual, somewhere that people... I actually originally offered it to an online company and said, you can have this, but I don't want you to give it to anybody else. Online is always a dumping ground for stuff that's been on TV or in the movies, and the last place you can see it is online. And I thought it would be kind of cool to say this is whatever, this special. This is a special that goes, you can only see it in this one place. There's not much exclusivity anymore, Everything's on everything. So I thought, what if it was only one place? And they didn't quite get it. So I said, why aren't I doing this? Why don't I just do it and charge $5, which is so close to stealing that it's easy to be honest. And then once I did it, every decision I made me more interested in it. Like, what is the site like? What's it like to buy it? What do you have to do to get it?
How do you get enough bandwidth to carry all the streaming at the same time?
Yeah, we got a huge website. Like the first thing I thought is if it crashes, it's a waste of time. So get a huge website, make it really easy. I wrote all the things that are said on all the buttons and everything. I just made it very personal.
Yeah.
And I told them, I don't want it to be that you pay and then you get an email later and then you feel like you lost the thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you pay for it and then all of a sudden you're gone.
Yeah.
And someday you get an email that says you have to do this. You mustn't use this video here. You can't watch it on your Xbox or all this kind of crazy stuff. So this one is just a simple video. There's no encryption on it.
I like how you charge $5 instead of $4.99.
Yeah, $4.99 is just a lie. It's just unfair. I mean, don't be a dick. Just
everything about it was very upfront. Like even that little letter you wrote on the site, like, "Hey, people who steal things evilly, please don't do it."
Yeah,
I know you're probably going to.
Exactly. Well, if you live in a rough neighborhood and your lock is broken on your door, you kind of want to look at the people that are hanging out on the sidewalk and just go, "Do me a favor, just leave me alone. I'm going out to get something to eat. Just
I know I have a nice
don't go
TV.
in and steal.
Yeah.
Just don't go in there." And people be like, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I was actually thinking of doing it."
Well, did it work?
Yeah, it really did. I mean, the thing is selling like crazy. So even if people are stealing it, they're not stealing it enough. It's not like they can actually steal it and then someone goes and it's not there.
Yeah.
Also, people have posted it on torrents, but not many people are taking it. That's where it becomes a problem, is when people are taking it instead of buying it.
Well, you mentioned about how, comedy specials, and it's a weird time for that. And I remember when Chris Rock, his 96 special.
Yeah.
That was the first special that I remember in a while that it was like, it became like a water code. Like, did you see it? Have you seen it? It's on HBO on Saturday night. Remember that?
Yes.
But there was a dry spell there for I don't know how many years. And then that became, then there was Resurgence, and then Comedy Central. Everybody gets a comedy special. They're churning them out.
Yes.
So where are we going with this over the next decade?
It's always that way. It's always going to be cyclical. And also, good comedians are like cicadas, kind of. Like, that's like a good, but it's like a 25-year cycle that they just, that's how long it takes.
Yeah.
It takes 25 years to make a great comic. So there's gaps. There's times where there's not really anybody around.
So you think there's like a cluster theory?
I think so. And there's a generation that sort of, and also Chris spawned some great comedians. And he inspired me to do it the way I do it. You know, he inspired me to think about specials as like a masterpiece of work. You know, a great work. So and actually seeing his made me go back, and I'd seen them before, but it made me go back and look at like Pryor live in concert and Bill Cosby himself and all of George Carlin's, and really go, these are really important. This is like, if I could do this really great, that'd be something, you know. So every time somebody succeeds at it, then there's a bunch of other good ones, and then there's a lot of, it degenerates, you know. It's like and then it dilutes. You get a bunch of bad ones. People get turned off to it, and then they stop watching.
The cluster thing's interesting because I remember like watching Letterman in the early 80s, and it was that whole group, and you could see it, and it was Seinfeld and Leno and Bill Maher and Stephen Wright, all these people, and they were all at the same time. Yeah. And then that group kind of graduated and became famous.
That's right.
So who was in your group?
Well, me and I started in Boston, and there was a bunch of guys who came out of Boston during that era. Me and David Cross were roommates, and then he went on and did all this crazy stuff. And Nick DiPaolo and I were roommates. And Joe Rogan, I knew Joe Rogan when he started in Boston. He was a little after me, you know, young comic. Now Joe Rogan. Yeah. A bunch of people. Dave Attell.
David Attell when he had hair. You were in the 1995 Young Comedian special.
That's right.
HBO will run those back every once in a while.
Yeah, they will. It's me, David Attell.
Somebody else was really good in it, too.
Anthony Clark was in it. Dave Chappelle.
That's what it was.
That was a power lineup.
Yeah,
and
really
a guy named
was.
Eric Tunney who died recently, unfortunately. But yeah, there was a pretty... I had to close that show. I remember that well.
It was just tough. On. It was on like 2 weeks ago, and I ended up watching it because... I'm always fascinated when they had those.
Yeah,
I'll never
Shandling
forget.
Hosted it.
Gary Shandling, and he was like, you know, he was like really into it because it was like a big deal at the time.
Yeah, it was live. They did it live.
I remember the Kinnison one. I remember watching live as a kid and just not even knowing what to do with myself.
That was a great generation.
Yeah,
and
that was
him
good.
And Dice and all these guys.
So what about like YouTube clips, Twitter?
Yeah.
Is this stuff helping comedy or hurting it, in your opinion?
Well, it's the same. The trappings are always different, but everything's the same. There's still only a certain percentage of people that are good at anything. Yeah. And so when it was just TV and clubs, then you had some clubs and some TV shows that had bad comics, and mostly bad, and then a few good ones. Most people are bad at everything, so you know, most people aren't amazing. It would be a weird world if they were. Right. So now there's a lot of bad comics with Twitter and YouTube videos, and then there's some good ones. It's just that's the way people are seeing stuff now.
Do you think it's forced people to? I mean, you would probably have done this anyway, but you can't really crest on an hour of material for 5 years anymore. Whereas I would say in the late '80s. You probably could have gone on the TV shows, done your little 5-minute things, and then done the same act around the country, and nobody would have really known.
Yeah, people did repeat stuff more in the past, I think. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what it's like for guys that are coming up now and struggling or, you know, they're making their way now. It's so different now because, I mean, I came right after an era ended. That used to be that if you went on The Tonight Show or Letterman, as soon as you went on the show and got 2 laughs, you were a millionaire. It was just crazy. Yeah. I remember I worked for Dana Carvey, and I was doing stand-up and then writing for Dana Carvey during the day, and I ran off one day to do Letterman. I was like, I'll be right back, and I went and did Letterman, and I had a great set. It was my second time on the show, and Dana watched the set with me. We were pals, and he said, if you had that set on Letterman, like 5 years ago, you'd be a huge, like, you walk everywhere you walk, you'd get a standing ovation. You'd get all these, just checks would come in the mail. And now it's I came right after that, and I had a bunch of good sets on Tonight Show, Letterman, Conan. Doesn't mean anything. People weren't looking there to see who's next, and it didn't matter anymore.
You seem like, with your career, it seemed like you were at this point as recently as 2 years ago where you were the comedian that the other comedians mentioned. They're like, who's the best comic record?
Yeah.
And they'd say you.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's nice.
And you'd done 2 TV things that hadn't worked out the way you wanted to. Mm-hmm. What made you want to do TV the third time?
Well, I never keep trying one. Like, stand-up is always the standby for me. Like, that's what I do.
The meal ticket.
That's what I am. I'm a comic. I'm a comedian. So anything else I do, it's like if I make a movie, I would never say I'm a filmmaker. I could never call myself that. I'm a comedian who made a movie.
Right.
I'm definitely a comedian.
Yeah.
I can say that one thing with confidence. But so I've tried TV, and I try it and it doesn't work, and then I go back to comedy. And then if something I'm doing as a stand-up leads me back to like, hey, this might be a show, then I'll try anything that I think might be good. I don't care about like, well, I failed at it before. You know what I mean? Who cares? Try it again. I mean, there's always
I love
reason.
that philosophy.
Well, also, the first time I did a pilot, the very first time I got a deal to do a pilot for a sitcom, I wrote it, and they really liked it, and it got close, and then they said, we're not going to make the pilot.
That was St. Louis?
No, that was before that. It was a whole other thing. And then I wrote St. Louis with this other guy, and they made the pilot. We got to shoot a pilot. It was so exciting. And I shot a pilot, and then they said, we're not going to make the show. All right. Third time around, made a pilot, and got 1 season of Lucky Louie on the air. And then that's all they wanted. There's a limit to everything that you can't think everything's just going to be everything forever.
Yeah.
That was the limit of that one. I did 1 season. Okay. And now I've done Louis, and I've gone 3 seasons. So I'm got a little further each time. I pushed the ball a little further ahead each time. I mean, not doing something because it didn't work would be like if you're a quarterback and you go to the line of scrimmage at the 25 or wherever the guy ran it to, and you hand the ball off and the guy pushes it 8 yards, and you're like, well, we didn't score a touchdown, let's all go home.
Right.
You know? I mean, there's no point.
But at the same time, you had a choice, right? With you could have done the FX thing, but you were also talking about doing a traditional network sitcom, right?
Yeah, when I got the FX show, I didn't need a TV show. I really didn't care if I did one or not because I was having such a good time on the road, and I was making a ton of money on the road. I mean, for me. And I was happy. And so people were asking me if I wanted to do a TV show. So my thought was, the only reason I'll do a TV show is if they just throw so much money at me that I could maybe stay home for a while, be a better father, So, the way the TV shows work is they pay you an enormous amount of money to try to make a TV show, and you get that money even if the show doesn't. You're actually incentivized to fail.
And they give you terrible notes.
Yeah, and they tell you this show makes no sense and this thing, and you go, oh, okay, and then you just sort of pretend to rewrite it, and then they go, no, we're not going to do it, and you go, oh, that's all right, then you take your money and you go on to something else. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
But I was totally down for it because I got kids, and I'm always anxious about not having enough money and going broke and stuff because I was raised poor. But so FX came and said, do a show, it can be anything you want. And I said, how much? And they said $200,000 an episode. And I said, there's no way I'm doing that. I was like, so that's what you pay for the episode? What do I get paid? They're like, you get whatever you can out of that and the production. And I said, the only way I'm doing it is if you don't even know what the show's about. I'm not going to show you the script. You just give me that money. Give me $200,000 in a bank wire, and I will give you a DVD of a show.
They wired it to you?
Yeah, like literally, I set up a company and they wired the money. That was it.
And
I didn't even know what the show was about. I decided I don't even want to think about what this show's about until the money's in the bank. And then once I had a company and I hired a producer I'd worked with before in New York, and we got the money, and then I started writing and thinking of stuff to shoot. And I didn't have I didn't write the whole. Usually you have to write the whole thing, and they read it and they give you notes, and then you rewrite it with their ideas until they like it. But this way, like I wrote 1 scene without knowing who was going to be in the show or what it's about. I just wrote 1 scene, and shot it. And then by the time I got to the set for that scene, I was writing other stuff, just writing it with pen and paper sometimes, and just wrote and shot and invented the show with a crew, like, while I was shooting.
Isn't that how creativity is supposed to work, though?
It's a better way to do it, yeah. It's a better way to do it.
Because the thing that's fascinating me about your career is it seems like you, fair to say, a little bit traumatized by you had some bad experiences. Dana Carvey's show sounded like a terrible experience.
Yeah,
like you were
awful.
really bummed out about that.
Yeah, I hated it.
You had other TV shows that they messed with, and you were putting out a product that you didn't like.
Yeah, I also wasn't good at it
Tang.
yet. I also wasn't good at any of those things yet.
But still traumatizing, though, that they were messing with them, right?
No, I wouldn't say traumatized at all. I mean,
What would be the right word?
I learned from it, you know.
All right.
I was cautioned and educated. I was educated by all those things.
Fair.
Easily the best way to describe it.
Dana Carvey show not a little traumatizing?
Yeah, but that was for personal. I mean, I went through personal trauma in that, and even then trauma. I just don't believe in trauma. That's a white guy's word.
Totally.
You know what I mean? A black guy gets, loses his life. I was traumatized. No, we put these medical words on stuff that just happens in life.
Yeah, that's true.
I had a shitty run on a bunch of shows, but you get more. I've always said this, that you get more information from failure than you do success, because there's forensics, there's a dead body on the floor, and there's all kinds of information. You can see clearly he should have done this, and But when everybody wins and there's just confetti everywhere, you don't really, you know what I mean? Nobody looks into it. You don't really find out what wins aren't analyzed in a way for me that are.
So what made you say, I'm cutting everybody out? I'm cutting everybody out. I'm doing this TV show myself, my way.
Because
you're even editing the show yourself.
Yeah, I edited it.
Everybody's out.
I directed it because I got the skill set to do it that way. I think anybody who could would. There are some people who like to just show up and do a show and get a check.
Yeah.
And they don't think about, like, I'm interested in everything. Like when I tour and they tell me, hey, you're doing the Chicago theater and here's how much you're making. And they tell me this big, exciting number. Then I ask them, well, how much are the tickets? And then they go, well, in order to pay you that, they're charging $50 a ticket. I don't want people to pay $50 a ticket to see me. How much do I get paid if they pay $30 a ticket? Well, geez, it's only this. And I'm like, well, that's more money than my dad made in his life. You know what I mean? I'll take it. And also, once I started looking at it that way, I learned stuff. Like I learned that if you ask for a high guarantee for a live show, you drive up the ticket price because the risk is higher. But if you tell the theater, look, don't guarantee me anything. Only pay me if we make money. Then the price of the tickets come down. And they don't have to advertise as much because they're not as afraid that they're going to lose. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So, and if you work at a theater without a guarantee, you actually get paid more because the show costs less. It costs less for the advertising, all that stuff. And if you sell it out, you will make more money. So I started learning about that stuff. It's really interesting to me. So when I look at the way that they release comedy videos, I thought, none of that works. Nobody's really seeing it who wants to. It's not exciting, and it gets put commercials in it, and someone else cuts it, and they don't really know how stand-up works. I really just want to shoot this show and put it on and not have to talk to anybody about it. And also, I was intrigued by the idea, if it's really cheap and easy, will that motivate people that really want to see it? And the worst thing that could have happened was everybody steals it, and it's out there.
Yeah.
And I get on with my life. I mean, the money I paid to produce it was taken out of the tickets of the people who came to see those shows. That when I shot for the special, so.
With the show, it seems like you lucked out with John Landgraf. Is it Landgraf?
John Landgraf, yeah.
At some point,
you were talking about the TV show.
No, you moved it to the comedy thing, but I had one more question about the TV show.
Yeah.
It seemed like you lucked out with that guy, because at some point you need to luck out with one guy, right? Who can just be like, no, leave this guy alone. Yeah, we're going to trust him. We're going to give him money. He's going to pull it off.
That makes a huge difference, yeah. He was When I met him, I realized I'll do whatever this guy says. And he also told me everything about how he pays the bills. Like, he explained it all to me.
Yeah.
And, he said, look, if you can do the show for this cheap, then you can do anything you want, because this is an amount of money I can just write this check at my desk. And no one's going to notice. Like, he wasn't risking enough money The thing is, artists can be very greedy, and they want to get paid a lot, and then they're amazed that there's scrutiny that comes with that money. I mean, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
If somebody's paying you $20 million to be funny for half an hour, they're going to want to look after it. They're going to have to look after that money.
Right.
There's nobody who has $20 million who's funny or who gets anything. So you're going to have to explain funny to an unfunny person if you want a lot of money. Folks that can write checks for $200,000, they get comedy. Like, those are funny people. John Landgraf really gets what funny is. He's a brilliant guy. I learn from him all the time.
So,
he's the only one I have to talk to.
You know, if you look at like what's worked with television, it seems like for the most part it's always one guy or two guys who's putting the show together. Like Sopranos, one guy.
Voice.
Mad Men.
Totally.
Well, then why don't they do it that way? Why is television so afraid to just do that and just give people the autonomy over these projects?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think that, you know, because it's counterintuitive to everything else. Like, we're gonna try to make a lot of money, and this is them, and we're gonna try to make sure a lot of people like this show, and so we got to really work hard on it all to get, like, we all have to make every decision very carefully. We have to pick, what do people like? They like nice looking people, and then they crowd together a bunch of unfunny, nice looking people. And they take a script that's just been worked over by so many people that nobody remembers what it was about anymore.
Yeah.
And people watch it and they go, this is dog shit. I hate this. This isn't interesting. Or they go, okay, I'll watch it if you make me. It's on the buses and everything. Like, people seem to watch some TV shows just because they're like, it's like a national duty to watch some of these shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you take a show and you just take a guy and you go make it, and the guy's willing to work for not $1 trillion a minute, you get something interesting. One person's voice or two people's voices is just more interesting. And it's interesting to watch what people do right and what they do wrong. You know, as long as it's one guy, like, what's that guy going to do next? That's what is compelling to people. It isn't, I love that guy. That guy always does the right thing. That guy's so handsome. That guy gets all the chicks. That's not what makes people watch something, is what is that guy going to, I wonder what he's going to do. That's what makes people watch stuff, is curiosity. That's why reality is so big, because they're like, what are these nutty people going to do? I don't know. I don't know what to expect.
From the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yeah, exactly. So good fiction works that way too, that it makes people wonder what's going to happen. But when you have notes meetings with executives, they ask all those questions at the meeting and they want you to answer them on the screen. They go, I don't understand why that's happening. Can you explain it? No, because then nobody will watch it.
Right.
If there was a network note session for The Wizard of Oz, they would have said, can we just tell her when she first gets there that all she has to do is click her heels? Can you just explain? Because that's really confusing to me.
Yeah.
And then then it would have been Dorothy. This would be a now version of Wizard of Oz. Dorothy gets to Oz and says, I don't know how to get home. And she says, all you have to do is click your heels and say there's no place like home. And then she goes, oh, well, maybe I'll hang around for a while. And then you just watch her hang around with no
Well, can you imagine, like, Cheers? Why does it have to be in a bar?
Yeah.
I like what you have, but I don't know, the bar, the drinking, we have sponsors.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden it's in a video store.
Yeah, well, they like the bar because that's cheap. Whenever it's one location, that's great.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's why Happy Days was always at Arnold's or what's his name's house?
Big Al's, whatever the...
Arnold's, that's why you had to jump it. You had to do all this stuff in there.
What made you decide on the structure, which is not a structure, for the show?
Well, that's how the pilot went. Like, I just ended up, I wrote a scene where I'm on a date with a girl, and I wrote like 3 or 4 scenes, and then I thought, that's about all I want to watch of that. I don't want to watch her then go, you know what, you're kind of a nice guy, or me going, I just wanted to see 10 minutes of it, and I thought, that's enough of that.
Yeah.
And then I wrote this thing of this story that happened to me and my kids on a bus, and I wrote that, and that seemed short, and I thought, that's all also. A regular show, you'd go like, well, okay, to make it half an hour, I got to have me and the teacher kind of connect and have something meaningful happen. I thought, as soon as it got on interesting, I just stopped writing. And so then I had a couple pieces, and then I thought, so maybe the show has a couple stories in it, sometimes. And then what do I do between? Do I talk to the camera? I don't like talking to camera. So I thought, why don't I just do stand-up? So I just culled it together. and I got some music that I really liked. I got some guys to play jazz music for me in a studio, and made it like a movie, like a couple of short movies with some stand-up. And then other times I made a whole story that was all one thing. Nobody's expecting me to do the show in any particular way, so I just keep changing.
It's kind of liberating.
Yeah, it's great. I don't have anything I have to do. I don't have anybody that has to be on the show. Like a cast for a TV show is a nightmare because you pick 5 people and you go, I hope they're all funny forever. I hope every one of them is good. And then a lot of shows you watch and there's like a scene between 2 characters and there's no reason for the scene except that they had to do something because they're on the show. But on my show, it's like I'll put a guy on the show and if he's interesting, he'll stay. And if he's not, or if I'm not interested in using him, he'll go. That way it's like playing your way on the team. And as long as you're good, you have to fight for your place there.
Right.
If somebody else comes up that's interesting, then screw that guy. Use this guy.
It's basically just your daughters and Pamela, right? Are the only...
Yeah, they're the only regulars, really. I had Bobby Kelly, a really funny comic from Boston. He was my brother for 1 season.
Yeah.
And the second season, I just didn't think of any stories, so he's gone. And I added 2 sisters. They're probably gone now. I've had 2 different mother characters on the show. I just do whatever I'm interested in for each episode.
And it could just keep going for... I mean, at that point, it could keep going for years and years and years.
I don't know. Yeah.
Or until you get tired of the character.
Well, I love, the characters. Yeah, I don't know. I love doing the show. I love doing that work. So I hope I keep coming up with stuff.
Did it scare you that when it became like super cool to like the show?
Did it scare me?
Yeah.
No, it didn't. It's weird. There's like a weird vertigo to getting like sort of bigger than I'm used to being. That's weird because I've been doing this for 25 years now.
Yeah.
So I've been working on it for years without anyone caring, and which has been fine with me.
Right.
And so now doing the same thing I've been doing all this time, but having notoriety and some fame it's weird. Yeah, it gives you a funny feeling in your belly a little bit. It's something to get used to. It can be stressful, because it's just, I'd rather not be on the top of a high building. I'd rather just be walking down the street.
Well, because at some point there's a little bit of a backlash. Season 3 starts.
Season 3 might be the season.
Not as good as season 2. And then they start that. And
I'm sure, I thought that would happen for season 2. I assumed it would.
Yeah. Well, season 2, I think, because it felt so different than season 1, it just kind of went, I don't know, it was, I don't want to say more serious, maybe more intense.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
There was some episodes where it was like there's 10 minutes where it was definitely wasn't
no funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened.
But yet, we're so attached to the character, you're just kind of locked in. Mm-hmm. Which is a really cool place to be. That's what I loved about Cheers. Cheers is still probably my favorite network sitcom.
Yeah,
and
that was good.
Cheers would go dark sometimes, and Cheers would be about the characters, and they didn't have to do set up, punchline. So, it was a real show.
Well, I don't really like comedy, I don't like stuff that's comedy, because it's like you're expecting to laugh, and you're watching the pattern of the humor, and you're waiting for the next joke. That's
beat.
Yeah, the things that really make you laugh in life are stuff that just kicks you in the balls out of nowhere. Like you're just in life and then something happens and you go, oh my God, and you laugh really hard.
Yeah.
That's really funny when that happens. And the things that have made me laugh the hardest in TV and movies have never been comedies. Like Goodfellas or Raging Bull to me. I've laughed harder during Raging Bull than any comedy.
Might have Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
I think I've laughed harder than that than... Everything but like 8 comedies.
Nobody says jokes out loud from like the Blues Brothers or whatever, Dumb and Dumber. These are all funny movies, but people say put the lotion in the basket constantly. It's still a whole thing.
I remember this was pre-internet, and my buddy Jeff and I, we just did 6 years of put the lotion in the basket stuff. And then the internet started, and you could start seeing it, and people talking about like, other people know about this? We thought it was like our thing.
No, it's
I was
huge.
Disappointed.
People, that stuff is funny. So I like to make the show that you don't know. It's also boring to watch a drama where it's like, here's the next dramatic thing. And boy, do these people ever laugh? Do these people ever have a good time? Like in a drama, it's just like, who lives like this? And it's the same in a comedy.
Yeah.
Who talks like this and then makes another remark like this? Like every 10 seconds. To me, it gives me a headache to watch that, where every single thing that's being said is a joke. It's just not, I can't take it in.
Well,
but
now,
if you're just showing people, and sometimes their life is scary, sometimes it's dramatic, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's strange, then you get to fire all those cylinders. They all work, you know?
Well, do you feel like Curb Your Enthusiasm, like all these cable shows, you can stretch the boundaries a little bit. You take some chances. You don't have to stick to that formula.
Yeah.
In a way, it's been even worse for the network shows than it already was, because now they really look like predictable and terrible, because look at what's going on over here.
Yes, because there's all kinds of options now.
Yeah.
It used to be that NBC, CBS, and ABC that's what you got to watch. So whatever those guys decided to put on the air, that's what everybody watched. And now you don't have to watch them. So I don't know why they're still doing what they're doing.
I don't. Maybe they won't. There might be a point when they don't.
I don't know.
It might just be reality shows and people get hit in the nuts.
That's mostly what they do. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's hard for them to adapt. They're not adaptable folks. The other thing too is that a lot of people still watch those networks, like more people than watch where I am. And that's a good thing. I wouldn't want any more audience than I have, I don't think. I think if it gets too much broader, I'll upset people. So.
Well, you talked about the timing thing. Like 10 years ago, maybe the show doesn't get a chance. But now the rating is at a point where they can take a chance.
Yeah, and also I'm spending little enough of their money that it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like they can pay for my show with advertisers that don't even know what the show is. Like there's, the magic mops or whatever they're selling, or Roger Daltrey's 60s music CD collection or whatever, these things. That's who's, you know what I mean?
The LA Porn Convention. Yeah, you'll get like a lot of local cable access.
It doesn't have. It's not Jeep Grand Cherokee presents Louis. That's not going to happen. Tiger Woods can't even sell Buicks just because he fucked somebody. That's how serious people are about that kind of thing. But like they told me they were going to move my show to 10 o'clock after the first season.
Ooh.
And then they went to advertisers who by 10 o'clock, and they were all like, they literally said to them, "This is a joke, right?" Like they watched the show, they're like, "This is like a prank, like a funny corporate prank." Like they wouldn't believe that anyone would ever. So 10:30, they told me they'll just stay there, and I'm happy there. I don't want more. No, I don't want to upset
I'm sure
anybody.
you get a lot of DVR, you get a lot of iTunes.
Yeah, plenty of people watch it.
Yeah, and the time slot doesn't ultimately even matter, probably.
No, and I wouldn't want to get paid more, and I wouldn't want more people watching. I'm in a perfect zone, and I'm collecting. I think I'm getting more people to the show.
Yeah.
Slowly. If you just put everything out there and say everybody's going to like this, there's going to be so much ill will because most people aren't going to like it. But if you just kind of chuck it on and go, if anybody's interested, we're doing this. And then people start gathering.
Well, I know it's not why you did it, but it seemed like the Dane Cook episode became like kind of that internet, holy did you see this? Like, and it just, I got forwarded so many times. And I mean, it just seemed like that kind of hit the zeitgeist there for a couple of days. And maybe that helped the show too, I'm guessing.
Oh, definitely. The Dane thing was great. We have a bunch of things like that. Like, I did think consciously about how the show's in a world where people watch stuff and they go, holy shit, and then they virally watch it. And it gets posted on Huffington Post or whatever, all these things. And So the first season, I always made YouTube clips. Every episode, I would make a YouTube clip of what I thought would be the really talkable scene.
Yeah.
Like the second episode of the show,
it was the poker scene, right? Yeah.
That was the first one that before the episode was done airing, I got it up on YouTube right away because I knew that folks would be intrigued by that and want to talk about it. And the next day, it's all over all kinds of sites, and they have my YouTube clip to go to as a reference. They have, look at this. This is what happened here. This is what I think about it. And so it was fun with the show to go, like, let's do stuff that intrigues folks that way. And also because the show is in capsules and it's in pieces, I could do something like that. The poker scene, nobody in that scene is in any more scenes of that episode. It's just one scene.
Yeah.
And there it was. People saw it, and that thing never stops coming back to me. That poker scene, it really, yeah, it just always keeps regenerating. And then second season though, I didn't do it as much just because I was tired. I didn't have time.
You're editing the thing for God's sakes.
Yeah, because I had to go on my site because FX's YouTube channel. It has like 300 followers, and if you put something on there, it gets seen like 100 times a year, like literally that low.
Yeah.
When I have like 60,000 YouTube subscribers, so when I put something on, it invariably gets at least like 250,000 hits.
Right.
Because people like a guy's YouTube. They don't like. There's another thing that led me to do the special that way. Nobody wants Comedy Central or FX to tell them what to watch.
Yeah.
But if I throw something up, or anybody who's just, if you had a YouTube that you make, people will go, "Whoa, what do you do?" And they'll want to see it.
Right.
So, yeah, the Dane thing, I like the idea of that kind of stuff where the scene's a little scene that you sit and you watch.
7 minutes, perfect YouTube size.
Yeah. I don't remember thinking that would happen, but yeah, that was that was something because of everything that had happened with Dane and how long all that shit had gone on. I thought if I get him and me in a room and we have this out in a way that feels really private and really real, it's really, there's some people who are going to really love it. Like, I knew it would be great.
Would it become like one of the, in the whole comedy world, that was like one of the 4 or 5 things that people always talked about.
Yeah.
And it was kind of settled.
Yeah, it was
on that show.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you were probably tired of talking about it.
I was really tired. I mean, I used to get every interview I did until I got my show.
Yeah.
Every interview I did, people asked me, "What's up with Dane Cook thing?" And I would just.
What would happen like when you cross paths with him?
I only saw him one time when we did Comic Relief. We were both on Comic Relief, like that year that it was going on.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting on a couch in the green room watching the TV, and he was sitting next to me, and we're both watching the TV and not looking at each other.
Really?
And it felt stupid.
Yeah.
And he has friends that I have. So it was like...
Well, like that Bobby Kelly's one of his guys,
one of
right?
my best friends, and he's one of Dane's best friends.
That's weird.
And Gary Gulman. And Gary and Bobby were both there. And so Dane would go over and talk to Gary and Bobby, and then I would wait for him to leave, and then I'd go over. It was just stupid. It's like, what are we, kids? And so we're sitting on the couch, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And I turned to him, and I go... hey, great. He had been on stage, and he did a good job.
Yeah.
I said, hey, great set. And he said, thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm excited to watch you go on. I said, oh, great. And we got it out of the way. And then we didn't sell anything.
Yeah.
But then we were on the stage, and people are shaking hands, so we shook hands. I'm not going to have an enemy. What am I in a schoolyard? I don't need enemies. But anyway, we never really solved anything. We wrote a couple emails back and forth, and then...
if you were rappers, it would have worked better, I think.
Yeah.
Comedians, not as good.
No, the comedian gripes are... That's one reason I never said anything about it, is because who cares?
Yeah. Well, obviously, a lot of people did care.
A lot of people really cared. And I felt bad for Dane, because I knew a lot of the backlash was backlash. It wasn't about me. Nobody was looking carefully at the thing. They were just enjoying pissing in his face. They just loved...
And it was a little like he had gotten too popular.
Mm-hmm.
You were the comics comic. You weren't popular enough.
Yeah, neither thing is true.
Right.
Dane is not some kind of a bigger-than-life person. He's a human being. And I'm also not some, terrific... I'm just
you're not a cop.
Like everybody else, yeah. So I made us both human. That was the idea. It was just to humanize us, meet us in the middle somewhere. I think it helped Dane because I think
it really helped him.
Well, I think his climb was so about him being a massive, huge figure, and I think that's never a good idea because no one is that. No one is that. You're just a person, and people don't like feeling like you're bigger than them.
They don't want to root for you either.
No.
Yeah.
So I think people see him as what he is. He's a guy. He's just a guy, and I think he, was, in a frenzy, and he was, there's people that, like Robin Williams has admitted that when he's got such a thirst for ideas, and his mind works like a motor.
Yeah.
And he's been in rooms and seen stuff and then absorbed it and then spat it out.
Right.
And he's admitted that. And, Robin's a great comic. There's no looking at it any other way. He's a great actor. But he doesn't get vilified the way Dane did. You know what I mean? Like, there's other people who have made those mistakes. I know comedians that are really funny and well-respected who take from other people without knowing it. Like, I've seen people do that. And no one goes after them because aesthetically, they love them. But Dane,
so how'd you...
his hair is greased up and he's wearing a tight T-shirt. So people enjoyed all over him. But he's a good man. He's a good person.
Well, how'd you approach him?
I wrote him an email, and I said, look, I wrote a thing for my show, and it has you in it, and it addresses our issue.
Yeah.
And I think if you read it, you'd want to do it. I can't send it to you because I didn't want to give it to him as...
Yeah.
can't send it to you, so I'd like you to just come to my office and read it with me. And if you don't do it, I'll get somebody to play it. Like, I just put that at the end.
You would have got an actor?
Yes. I just decided I'm going to be a little bit of an just say, I'll get somebody else to do it. I don't need you to do it. Because then he'll really want to, at least, I just wanted to get him in the room.
Yeah.
So he showed up by himself and sat in my office, and we read the whole script together. Like, he read all the parts that weren't me. He read my agent, my daughters, everything. And then we got to that scene, and God, I really admire him. He didn't ask to take a minute to read it by himself. You know, he didn't protect himself in any way. He just sat there with me and read what I wrote for him to say. And
so he didn't come up with that?
No, that's all mine. I wrote
really?
all
Yeah. Oh, I thought maybe you ad-libbed it.
No, we didn't ad-lib anything.
Did he have trouble sticking to that?
No, he didn't. He read it. When he read it, I wrote it based on what I thought he would have said. And also, to me, every time I'm against an adversary on my show, I want to let them win because it's more interesting to me.
Yeah.
If I get into like a kind of weird territory and I write myself a winning line,
yeah,
it just feels fake, you know. But I feel like I can go to weird places as long as I don't get the best lines, you know. And it all helps me. I'm happy to lose an argument to Dane on my show because he's on my show and we're doing this really cool thing. I'm more interested in seeing the thing happen than wanting some kind of outcome that benefits me, you know, or makes me look good. So I wrote this stuff like I thought, what would he really feel if I was him? Like, what would I feel about this? You know, I know it's frustrating to him. I know he's angry about it. So where would that come from? I didn't know, and I thought about it carefully, and I thought, well, he'd probably feel like nobody really gave him a chance, and I'm getting a bull pass because of what people think I am, and you know that he was just why would he steal 3 jokes when he has, you know, hours and hours of material that no one thinks he's who would do that? Why would someone do that? And so I wrote it out that way, and we read it, and his thoughts were, he said, I think that I'm too angry in this thing because I'm not angry anymore. I've let it go. And I would like this thing to reflect. I'd like to show people that I'm an even-headed guy and that I'm funny. I'd like to be funny in it more because I was taking pot shots at him. And he's just angry. And he wanted to be funny like me, and he wanted to be easier about it. And I said, well, I understand how you want to be perceived, but that's not interest. I have no interest in how you're perceived. Right. It means nothing to me. I just want to do this scene because this is going to be really cool. And I said, if you have any concerns, don't do it, and I would never fault you for not doing it. But I can't take a single note from you. I can't do it. And he thought about it, and he said, okay, I'll do it. And he did it as written. The only change that he asked for that I did was it was supposed to take place in a comedy club. And he said, it should be at Madison Square Garden, because that's where I play if I'm in New York. He said, you should have to come and see me at Madison Square Garden. And here's how stupid I am. I said, no, we're going to meet at the comedy club. That's what I wrote. And he agreed. Yeah. And then I told a friend of mine, and he said, you're so stupid, because that's way funnier. If you have to go to Madison Square Garden,
go in the bowels of MSG.
Yeah, and you have to like really grovel to this guy who sold out Madison Square Garden for this thing. It's so much better. It puts you in such a terrible position. And I realized that I was being blinded by competitiveness. Here I'm telling him, no, you're going to be playing a club. And I realized, oh my God, I'm a bit of an here. Of course it should be MSG. So I wrote him and said, we're doing MSG. And
you're like, fine, I'll do the Felt Forum, but not MSG. We're going to meet middle ground.
Exactly. And then once I got there, I realized, because it was this austere place, I realized this is so funny. And I had this idea of having these security guards, which we didn't have in the script. And so we didn't have security guards, so we called this security company, the kind that sends like 8 armed guards.
Right.
They were all armed. They were all serious, like Navy SEAL type guys, and it costed a little bit of money, but it looked perfect. So. And
I would argue that was a great thing for him ultimately, being on the show, the whole clip, everything. I think it was good for him.
I think so.
Did you have
healing?
Did you have other people then see that and say, "Hey, you know, I'm available for so and so"?
Well, Chris has been on the show. Chris Rock. He's been on the Dane.
He's your friend, though.
Yeah, Joan Rivers is on the show.
But nobody's ever approached you. say?
Yeah, no, I have. Yeah,
yeah.
I've gotten emails and stuff from people saying this famous person has agreed to be on the show.
Mr. Gibson has agreed to be on the show.
Knows that you'll be delighted to have him. No, I've gotten emails from people asking to be on and stuff. But
the Chris Rock thing was really interesting to me because it seemed like you intentionally and willfully wanted to make him seem totally normal. Guy at home.
Yes, that's what it is.
Not cracking jokes.
Well. No.
Taking from his wife. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That's what you wanted. Because when I saw him, I was like, oh, this is cool. Chris Rock's going to be Chris Rock. I was like, oh, yeah, no, he's going to be Family Guy Chris Rock.
Yeah, no, he the reason I used him wasn't because of his funny chops. It was because of his drama chops. When Chris just acts like a drama actor, he can actually do it.
Yeah.
And he was in a play at the time. I don't know what you could say on this show, but it was called Mother with a Hat. That was the name of the play.
Couldn't believe it.
It was a great Broadway play. And so he was in it, and I never saw him act like that. And he played this really serious guy who brought the word down to people. So I just thought, geez, he's really good at that. Also, Chris, that's our relationship. He gives me a lot of wake-up calls. There's a lot of times I call Chris, and he says, what are you doing? Right. And he talks sense into me. He's that friend for me. So I just gave him the part of what he does in my life, usually.
So you think that he could actually, if he had wanted to, done like the real acting thing?
He's still very much good. He's a young man, and he's in good shape, and he works very hard. I think Chris will probably surprise people with some great... I don't think that his intention has come from the best place for him creatively in the other movies he's done. I think there's going to be a movie with Chris in it that he's acting in that people are going to go, that was so great. I know Chris can do that. I've directed him in a couple of things, and I know a person can get Chris to a place where he turns in great.
So maybe you need to add him to the cast.
Yeah. I probably will have him on again. I think I'll probably have him on again. He does really great work when he's in the right place. And
I have to admit,
so far, unfortunately, all he's doing is turning out amazing comedy specials, selling out giant theaters,
right?
And doing, he's got his series that he did on UPN, all this, he does stuff and.
When I was doing documentaries.
Yeah, he does documentaries. I mean, Chris has several abilities that he's one of the smartest people I know, and he's also one of the more generous and good people I know.
When you obviously knew him in the mid-'90s when that comedy special took off.
Yeah.
And it was really like a force of nature. I mean, it was right when the internet was starting, but not, it was really pretty early. Like, did you see that coming? I know you were involved.
I wasn't involved at all.
You weren't involved in that special at all?
No.
You were involved in the second one?
I never worked for Chris as as a stand-up writer. That was all his own thing. I wrote in his show on the Chris Rock show on HBO. But I knew Chris when he was a young comic, and I was. And then he went to SNL, and when SNL is like other worlds. Like if you live in New York, people that go to SNL, you just don't see them anymore when they work there. And Chris didn't, he struggled at SNL.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything that was his greatest move. Just didn't happen.
Yeah.
But he's a beacon for me because he failed at SNL, really did fail, and then he left, and then it was like, goodbye, Chris Rock is gone.
He had that one cup of coffee in Living Color, I think.
Yeah, tiny right before it got canceled.
A quick espresso.
Yeah. And then he's gone.
Yeah.
So where'd he go? He was on the road, just doing thankless, difficult road gigs, and making himself a better stand-up than he was before SNL. Before SNL, he was that Arsenio Hall. He did like this, and he'd throw the mic down, and he'd do his jokes, and he had like these little 10-minute spots. And then he went on the road, and nobody saw him anymore. He wasn't getting a new gig or taking a meeting. He was just getting good. Really, really good. And then I remember really well that somebody said, hey, Chris is headlining at Caroline's in New York, the comedy club. And I'd never seen him do a whole hour of stand-up, like a whole headlining set. So me and some comedians went to the club to watch him, and he'd come back to New York to headline Caroline's, and he was getting ready for his special. And so we go in and we watch him, and he was so much better than all of us, better than everybody. Like, we were all hanging around New York, telling weird jokes for 20 minutes at a time, and complaining about our managers and going to diners, We were just in a holding pattern. Nobody was trying to get great at being a comedian. They were just being the comedian we were, And here comes Chris, and he's phenomenal. Like, he's And I was like, I forgot this is a thing that matters that I do. At the end of the show, people were on their feet.
Yeah.
And every comedian was like this, leaning on their elbows and like like the close-up pictures of the losing team at the World Series. That's what it looked like. When they do those close-ups of the watery eyes.
Yeah.
And the guy just staring at the field.
Just wondering what happened.
Yeah, just
resentful.
going over his,
Yeah.
What am I going to say? How am I going to go home? I hope I'm not going to hit somebody when I go home. All these feelings that all the comedians were sitting there like that. Like I've been wasting 5 years I've been wasting. And then he went on and did that special, and it was just like this blowback, like, oh my God, he's just so goddamn good.
So when did you get to the point where you struggling to get better, make a living, figure out how to deal with hecklers, like a million things to, all right, I'm good at this, now I'm going to try to be great at this?
Well, that was when I saw him do that. That was a big deal. I was writing for TV then, so I was a little more focused on that.
Yeah.
But I started going back out to clubs again. And then my life changed in its own way. I had kids, and I grew up also. So I just everybody grows up at a different time.
Yeah.
I grew up when I had kids, and started really thinking about stand-up. When I had kids, it made a big difference for me because when I went out to do a set, it wasn't a social event. It was until that point. You just go to the Comedy Cellar, have a falafel at the comedy table, run down and do your set. Bullshit with some comics. It was a lot of wasting time.
Yeah.
And it didn't really matter how the set was. That was just the job. I'm just going to go on and do my time, tell the same jokes, maybe do one new joke. But now it's like I've got kids, and getting out of the house is a big deal. I'm going to do a set tonight, and I ain't wasting any time. I got a list of stuff I want to try. I want to make sure that this set makes me better. I started to think every set I do has to make me better comic.
When did you make the decision that every year I'm dumping that material and doing new material?
2005, I think. I did a half-hour special in 2004 for HBO.
Yeah.
And it was all this new stuff I'd been doing about kids and being married. And then I did Lucky Louie, and we shot the whole season, and we were done in March, I think. And we weren't going to be on the air till September. We had a whole summer and spring to wait before we even went on the air.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't certainly renew us till we'd been on the air and succeeded or whatever. So I asked HBO to give me an hour. I said, please, I got them to promise me an hour special in November. And so I went on the road and thought, I'm going to try to write an hour of new material. And all I thought was, I'm going to do 1 hour special. And either I'll get my show picked up, and then I won't ever get to do it again. That'll be the end of my stand-up career, I thought. Yeah. I thought if Lucky Louie went 2 seasons, it would have gone 10. So while I'm still a comic, I always wanted to do an hour like Chris did.
Yeah.
So I went on the road. I did clubs for the whole spring and summer, and I built an hour. And then Lucky Louie got canceled, and they let me they let me still do the hour, God bless them. And I did this hour called Shameless. Yeah. And it's the smartest thing I ever did in the world because I needed something because my show was gone. And I did Shameless, and it really it was the first thing that after Shameless aired, I had a club date in Philadelphia, and I found out we sold out like a month ahead of time. I had never sold out a club like that. And all of a sudden, I was putting tickets on sale, and people were buying them. That was the first time. And I thought, well, are they going to see Shameless? And I thought, I just did this thing of starting with nothing and building an hour from scratch and shooting it at the end of the year. I did it. I can do that. That's something I know how to do. And I thought, and you know what? It wasn't that good. I could do that better. And I decided, why keep doing that material now? Throw it away. I'm going to do that again. And I did it again. The next year I shot Shoot Up. And my life kept changing. I got divorced after Shoot Up, so now I had a whole new, different kind of material. Yeah. And then I did it again. I did Hilarious. And then I got the show. So the next 2 hours went into the series.
Because I remember when Jerry Seinfeld, when the gimmick of comedian was, Jerry's not doing his material anymore. He's going to try to do new material.
Yeah.
And now you're like, every year I'm going to do a new hour. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the over-under on you being able to keep this up? Like 2014?
Well, I mean, you know...
Every year you're going to do this?
Sure. It's like writing a book. If you write a book, you don't keep writing the same book. It's not like Mark Twain wrote Huckleberry Finn and people loved it, so he said, I'm going to write Huckleberry Finn again. And he just keeps writing it. It makes no sense. It's just all in your head. It's what you decide is your demand. You just decide that's how much material I need to write. And you write.
So you never get worried about tapping out?
Yeah, of course. I'm terrified of tapping out.
Yeah.
But that's a motivating fear. That's pressure.
Yeah.
I like pressure. I learned that from Billie Jean King. Is
Billie
one
Jean
of my
King?
Heroes. Yes, one
really?
of my heroes. Yes. I remember as a kid watching a press conference with Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs when they were doing the Battle of the Sexes. I was so fascinated by that because I was raised by a single mom and I have 3 older sisters. So I've always identified with women taking care of it, and I've never saw women as weak. I only ever knew my strong, working single mother. So watching Billie Jean King field this horrible, just misogyny was fascinating because the way she carried it. Yeah. That's what made it work. Because he would sit there going, why don't you all get back in the kitchen? And
that's right, I forgot he did that.
It was amazing. And he'd have 2 girls in bikinis with big tits. I mean, there's no bigger insult to a working, woman than chicks with tits. And he'd sit there and he'd go, yeah, this is what a woman is. What's your problem? Whatever. And the way she carried it was it was amazing. She didn't sit there and turn red and be like Wilma and get angry. She just sat there like this. And then they asked her, how do you feel when he says all this? And she smiled and she said, all it does is put a lot of pressure on me. And I love pressure. And she had this big smile on her face. She said, I love pressure. And I thought, I never forgot it. I thought, oh my God. How do you love, what does that mean? Like, I thought really carefully about that. She really did. She was like, come on, keep it coming. I love it. I love it. I want this pressure because she knows how to turn pressure into hard work. She knows it motivates her. Yeah. She knows that the heat from pressure is going to make her work harder. So she's like, go ahead. The more he said, the more she had to win. There's no way. She had so much to lose that she knew she'd play better. So that's the way I do it. I think, like I say out loud, I'll never do the same hour in a year. And then inside I'm going, oh God,
why did I say that?
Why did I say that? And then it pushes me. The same thing with this special. Yeah. I went on Conan. I mean, it was like a thing. I just said it out loud. I said, I'm doing a special. You can only see it on my website. And then I was like, oh, man. Comedy Central wouldn't pay good coin for this. And then I had to make it make sense. I had to... Yeah. Like going into Landgraf's office and saying, I'll do this show for nothing. And it'll be great. And keeping the, all the things that I do are hard. They're a harder version.
Well, but how old's your oldest daughter?
9.
Well, see, at least now 6. When they turn 12, now you have 5 more years of material. You'll have a new hour every year. Yes.
Well, my kids
because they'll suddenly hate you.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I have a countdown clock for when she turns 12 and a half. And then
why do you think she's not going to hate you? She's going to hate her mom. That's what she's.
I thought they hated everybody. I need more clarification.
They love their dads.
Oh, good. So we win potentially.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Dads win.
Oh, good.
With girls, dads win with boys.
I hope that's what happens.
No, she'll always love.
Because they're so sweet. At age 6, they're so sweet.
I've got a 6 and a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
And. No, it's unbelievable. The love is unbelievable.
It really is. It's complete adoration.
Yes, it is.
That's why
you gotta stay her friend. That's all you gotta do is stay her friend. That's what when kids get to be 12,
right?
Just be a friend. You're not a parent anymore. Nobody's their parent anymore. You can try to be their friend and try to stay close.
Steer them out of the way. Steer them out of trouble.
You want them to be able to call you when there's a dead body and a bloody knife. You want them to be able to call, not be afraid of you. Dad. Yeah. And you go, tell me where you are. I'll come pick you up.
Dad, I'm hammered. Should I get in the car?
Yes,
no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or Dad, I got hammered. I'm in the car.
Well, usually when comedians start talking about their kids, usually it's bad. With you, it's been an asset. Like in your online special, you have a whole bit about this one kid in your daughter's class who you hate.
Yeah, Jazan the Puss. Yeah.
He had to use a pseudonym for her. And I love that because I can neither confirm nor deny that there's been kids in one of my kids' classes that I hated. And it really is funny. You have this irrational hatred for this little kid who can't help themselves and is not who they're going to be 15 years from now.
I can't take it. When there's a little boy and he just isn't controlling his body and he's just got this nasty look on his face.
Yeah.
I really want to, I swear if this were a different culture and there were no laws, I'd probably kill a couple of little boys. I'm probably stopped by law and crime and punishment law.
Be a bad career move.
From at least punching one of those kids right in the head. Like if I just lived in a different country or at a different time, when it was acceptable to really punch a kid hard in the face.
Smack him.
I mean a kid that's not mine.
Yeah.
I would never hit my own kid. I think it's stupid. I just think it's a failure of parenting policy. That's all. But I would hit another kid like that. I probably not, and I wouldn't think it was a good idea. I think I wouldn't be able to control myself. I'm held under control by the threat of jail and life ruination. It would be a pretty bad move. I mean, and I'm saying this because I've pondered it. I've stood in the schoolyard looking at a kid and thought through.
Yeah.
How bad would my life get if I walked over and just kicked him with everything I have? Just kick him from behind, so he didn't even
right in the butt.
Just no, like in his full, like my leg takes his whole full back, like take his spine, shift his spine like an inch forward in his inside of his body.
What about like youth soccer and that whole world? I mean, do your kids play
My kids
sport?
don't play. Well, my oldest plays soccer in school. They have soccer once a week, and I had my little one in soccer class where they sort of do soccer exercises.
Because that's fertile ground.
But the boys in the class, it was a co-ed, and the boys in the class were punching her and stuff.
Yeah.
What's the point of taking her if this kid's punching her? So I didn't do it anymore. But I hope they do. Sports is really good for kids.
It's fertile ground with the whole parent situation and some of the stuff, the people yelling at the refs. And it gets really weird pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was going to happen until 12, 13.
Your kids play sport? You have one kid?
I have two, but my daughter was playing soccer this whole fall, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole culture, right?
It really is, yeah.
Yes.
Stuff's going on. It's only going to get weirder, I feel like, too.
Oh, of course it will.
Yeah.
Of course it will.
You have the coaches who you're not supposed to play a goalie, and you have these coaches who think they're like the Phil Jackson of soccer coaches, keeping the one kid back. It's like, no, you're not supposed to do this. These kids are 6.
Right, they're not supposed to have goalies at all.
No,
right?
Everybody's supposed to be over midfield. Girls are cheating back. It's like, what are we keeping score?
That's crazy.
But it is pretty nuts. So,
I never did.
So now that you have this special, now you're on to a new hour.
Yeah, I'm done.
Or you
with
need
that
a new
stuff.
hour.
Yeah, I've got a little notebook with a few jokes in it.
What's your process? I was always curious to know that. Do you go to weird? Do you have to be
going,
outdoors? Do you have to be in your house?
The hardest thing is I go for writing. I don't sit and write down stuff. Stuff collects in my head, and I try to write it down and remember it. I usually don't write much down. I write now more than I used to. I never used to write anything down when I was just a comic, but now I got way too much to do. If I have an idea, I'm likely to forget it, and I'm older now. So I write it in a little notebook, just a word. I don't write it out.
Oh, to go back later and be like, yeah.
Yeah, I never write stuff out because I think it uses a different part of your brain to write.
Well, how do you do the TV show then? What's your writing process for that?
The scripts I write for the TV show. For stand-up.
But where are you doing that? Are you in an office? Or are you at
I have in my home. I have it's the living room for me and my kids. Yeah. But it's my office. It's my happy place, and I've got a big old desk. It's all, I moved recently, so this is all kind of new, but I've always had a desk, a place to sit in.
Did you buy the $17 million house?
What?
From that episode?
No.
That was,
I ain't
you didn't
got
get
that
one?
kind of money, man. No, I don't have that kind of money, but I rent a nicer place than we used to have, a bigger place than we used to have. Yeah. And I have a big old kind of office, turn of the century desk, and I've got nice couch. So I write. I have a typewriter I write on sometimes. Sometimes I write on...
Typewriter?
Sometimes. I like writing on a typewriter.
Old school?
Yeah. It's good.
Do you get a pipe or something? Like a little hat?
No
pipe. Fedora?
No, none of that. Just a typewriter.
Who's your sounding board for the show? Do you have anybody you bounce stuff off?
Pamela's given me a lot of that. Pamela's... I'll tell her stuff and she'll help me think it through. Tell me... if she's just silent, then I just drop it. There's been a few things where I'll I know it's good, and I know she'll hate it, so I just don't tell her about it.
Yeah.
And then she'll see it, and she'll go, that was good. And I can tell she doesn't really like it. You know? So I know what to bring to her that she'll make fun.
Right.
And I have a few other friends like that I'll run stuff by, but mostly not. Mostly I do it myself. Most of the work I just spit it out and give it to my producer and start working on it. But for me, sort of the sounding board is in producing it.
Yeah.
Sometimes stuff dies. Like I'll cast it. They go and get a bunch of people on video, and I watch videos of people reading the scene. That's how I cast it. I don't ever go to the casting sessions. And sometimes nobody good reads it, and I realize in watching the casting, this is a piece of shit. I'm not making this thing.
Yeah.
And I'll just drop it.
I read some interview with you where you were saying about season 2, there was one episode that you liked pieces of it, but you didn't like it. I think it was the one with, it was... you had the meeting, you had the pitch meeting in it, and then it ended with the executive, which actually happened to you, and she ditched you.
Yeah, I didn't like the way that came out at all.
You liked all the pieces, but you didn't like how it came together.
Yeah, I liked the meeting. I liked the round table rewrite.
Yeah.
I enjoyed writing that because of the kind of people that go to those, and it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I think I went off the rails with that one because I'm sitting there talking to this woman who's sort of talking to me about my dreams to make movies. I don't think anyone gives a that I've dreamed to make movies. I don't think that's a compelling part of what I do on the show. And getting led astray by an executive, what is that? That's such a non-experience. I just don't think it mattered. I think we did it good, and the woman was really good, but there was no point to it, you know? So I tried not to air it, and I had a couple.
You tried not to air it?
Yeah, I didn't want to air it.
It was a good episode. It was disjointed,
okay,
but it had good pieces.
I would have liked to have replaced it with something else. And there's stuff that I haven't aired that just didn't make it.
How much?
It wasn't good. Well, some of it is on the DVD from the first season. I just dumped there. I think there's one or two things I held back completely. Like no one's ever seen this. But yeah, I always have stuff I don't air because you can't. You have to be able to try stuff and have it not work and then not show it. You know, that way you get more exciting stuff if you try stuff that's not likely to work.
You did that with your comedy too, right? You threw stuff on YouTube just to see what the reaction would be.
Yeah, I used to throw
stuff you were working on
all the time. Anything that I was doing that didn't feel like it was going to gel into a great bit or I wasn't sure of, I'd throw it on YouTube. And a lot of that stuff is in the series. When I shoot the stand-up, if I do anything that's just off the cuff, that's just odd, and gets a tiny laugh, I put it on the show. Because it's probably not going to be like a big piece of material.
I still can't figure out why you're editing this, though. That just seems like...
Somebody asked me about this recently, and the way I explained it that makes sense to me is that me not editing it would be like being a sculptor, and taking a pile of clay to some young assistant and saying, go make a nice thing of a lady, and then taking a walk. I mean, it's part of the job. It's just part of the work.
But it's real.
Putting it together.
It's grunt work, though.
It's not. It's art. I mean, editing is. I mean, you know.
But I know you have to be in there. But to do it, you're doing it yourself, though, right?
Yeah.
Usually people do it with that second person.
Sitting behind a guy and going, "Can you take a little off of that?" And he's sitting there clicking. I'm like, just.
So you just got tired of the video.
Yeah, I go crazy. I need to just be able to.
Because that was when I was working. I worked for a Kimmel show for 18 months, and I loved editing segments. It was actually reminded me of writing a column because you have this chunk of things, and then you're like, "Crap, that's too long. What do I cut?" Boom, boom. Ooh, I'm down at this length. Nah, it feels like that should be 4 minutes. I'm at 4:40 right. It was fun.
It is, and a lot of times you find great moments in editing. You can create laughs that weren't there.
Yep.
And you see stuff that people did. You go, I didn't even notice him doing that when we were shooting it, and you put it in. And sometimes you change the whole story with editing. You completely change it, and it's and also to me it's like laying down. It's musical, you know. Like I put down some music. And then I lay the shots end to end and start getting a feeling for what the thing feels like. When I had an editor that I worked with, and he was the guy, Doug Abel, he was he was one of the best. And but he would form it in a certain way, and I'd try to go through it, and all these decisions were already made, and I would feel like I couldn't deal with it.
Right, because they give you that little rough cut ahead of time.
Now they give me the shots, and I just sit there and I just start putting it together.
But did you have to learn how to? I always watch these editors, and I was always like, "How are they doing all this stuff?"
I taught myself how to do that years ago. Everything that I love, every part of making movies and TV. So everything I teach myself. If I learned that by sitting behind editors for years and asking them everything they're doing, and then once Apple started making computers that could edit video.
Right.
That changed so many things for me. And I got that. I got a computer with Final Cut Pro on it. Now, unfortunately, they're going to stop doing that. I think Apple. They don't care anymore because they sell these iPads and so.
Yeah, they try to make everything easier.
Professional equipment, they're going to not.
I predict for season 4, you're going to be somehow filming the show with cameras with little electronic. You're moving the cameras yourself with your hands.
Well,
You've not cut out cameraman.
It's all my own stuff. I buy the equipment so that it's mine, and I have it, and I can use it for other stuff if I want to. And that's part of how the show pays off for me. Is I now have an incredible collection of lenses, really good movie lenses,
right?
And I shoot my show on them. But if I want to make a movie, I have everything I need.
So do you feel like now you've had so much autonomy and you've enjoyed it so much that it would be hard to be in somebody else's thing?
Yeah, it would be a nightmare. It would be hard. I used to want to be a movie director, and I could probably get a job directing a movie now.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be a job that I'd want. I'd be an entry-level director at some studio. And I'd have to work under their, it would be really painful.
No, but wait,
after what I've been doing.
You could write an indie movie and direct it yourself and do it that way.
Yeah, and now the other thing is that writing movies is the hardest thing I've ever tried to do.
Yeah.
And writing movies, it's just so brutal to get. It's so difficult. I don't know if I can do it. I think that's my Peter principle or whatever they call it. I think movies is probably, it's a dumb thing to say out loud, but I don't know if I'm good at that. I think I could direct the shit out of a movie.
Yeah.
But writing one is really, really hard.
Do you feel like you're getting all this stuff thrown at you now? Like it's hard. You can see how people would get. I don't think it'll happen to you, but some people get spread. Oh, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll take. And then all of a sudden you're spread thin.
Yes, and you gotta not do that.
Yeah.
I've been offered stuff that I would have taken in the past because of exciting opportunities.
Yeah.
And I've said no. I have plenty to do. The thing that is a huge asset for a comedian is that you sell tickets on the road. You don't have to ask anybody for that job. You don't have to interview for it. If you sell tickets, you get the work. And at this level, because of the doing a different hour every week, that's given me a huge ability to sell tickets. When you do the same hour every year, people come see you on tour, and then the next time they go, oh, here he comes again, and then they see you on tour. Third time they're like, I seen it. They see the same show twice. Why would they come again? Why? But every time people see me on the road, it's a completely different show. And they go, I can't believe he keeps changing it. So they come. They're always there. So there's a lot of cities in America where I sell mad tickets. And that pays way more than movies or comedians that do theaters.
Yeah.
Like, my level, I'm like, 18 to 3,600 seat theaters. That's kind of my range. And that pays way more than most movie actors.
Yeah.
Most movie actors, except for the elite ones, that get like $16 million for a movie. And still, they have to spend a whole year making it and then promoting it. It's a lot of work that they're giving. So I make enough on the road that it wouldn't make any sense financially for me to go make a movie.
You keep a schedule because of your kids, right? You have to.
Yeah, that's the other thing
home.
Is I won't come out here and spend a month out here shooting a movie. I won't do it.
Yeah.
The only way I would do it is if Martin Scorsese or somebody like that said, you're going to be the next guy in one of my movies. Then I'd figure I'd go.
I'm making Goodfellas too.
Have coffee with my ex-wife, and I'd say, listen, we got to figure out a way for me to do this without losing too much time with the kids.
Right.
But I wouldn't just come out here and be in some funny comedy because I'm with my kids 3 days a week, and that's a hard and fast. That's an important thing to me. So, and they're counting on that. They expect it.
Yeah.
And they're counting on it. And just for me, it's not okay to me to say, you're not going to see your dad this week because I'm going to work. It happens occasionally, but I work out the schedule with their mom so I can still see them. Because when you're married, if you leave the house, it's still the kids are in your house. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But when you're divorced, if the kids aren't with you, they're not even in your home. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you're not as much of a presence for them.
Yeah.
So it's, and also I love being with them, and I'm part of their stability. So I just make it a rule. It's like when I heard about Joe Lieberman, that he's a senator, but he doesn't work on Fridays or whatever the day is. The Jews don't work. Sandy Koufax. There's guys that are always, they say, I just don't do it. You just can't make me do it because it's important to me. And everybody goes, that's crazy. But then they work around it. So that's what I did with this. I told my agent, when I go on the road, I don't leave New York City till I've dropped my kids at school on Wednesdays. Then I can go on the road. And I have to be back on half the Saturdays a month. That's a lot of Saturdays. That's a lot of stand-up gigs I could be doing Saturdays.
And you've shut down the shooting for the day on Louis.
Yeah, on Louis I only shoot Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. That's it. Yeah. I don't shoot on any Monday or Tuesday.
You're a better dad than I am, I gotta say.
Well, I'm pulling it off because I decided at some point that kids come before work. I just decided that because I have to. Are you married?
I'm married.
Yeah, so it's different. You can tag team. You've got two people.
Oh, that's true. I didn't think of it that way.
That's the whole reason. When I got divorced, and I had my kids with me on half the week, I thought, I got to make this work. I mean, this is just me and them. Yeah. I'm not going to get a nanny to watch them on my custody time. That makes... They'd be better off with their mom. Why would I do that? So I thought, how am I going to handle this? It used to be I just did whatever people asked me to do, and I thought, okay, I have to make a choice. I have to decide which one beats, who gets the tie break. And I decided the kids. And so when I get a call from somebody saying, do you want to do this? And it's on kid time, I say, I can't. I just can't. Doesn't matter how cool a gig it is, I can't do it.
So that's why you would never host a late night show or do any of that stuff, yeah.
I would never do it.
You probably wouldn't do it anyway, though, right? Would you want to host a late night show?
I used to think that would be kind of a cool job, but now I wouldn't do it.
That's what we grew up with. We thought.
Yeah, we thought it was cool, but now, and I wrote at one of those shows. It's too hard. I think it's a younger guy's thing.
Which way you wrote on Letterman, right?
44 years old. Yeah. I wrote on Conan and Letterman.
Yeah. It just seems like it's a grind. I mean, I know from the 18 months I spent, like
it's too hard. Yeah, it's fun. When you're young, it's fun. You're just trying all kinds of stuff.
And if you want to get the special, louisck.com.
Or .net.
Or .net. Now you have the .com. $5.
PayPal. You don't have to join PayPal. A lot of people are a little bummed out about like they don't want to join.
Oh, please. If you have eBay, you're on PayPal.
That's right.
PayPal's not intimidating.
$5, we leave you alone. There's an opt-out button, and it's clicked opt-out, like for emails. Like we start you at opt-out.
I got signed up for all this porn like about 2 hours later. It was better than your phone. No, it's really good. I mean, if you are listening to this, you like our guests, so I would recommend the special.
Right now, you can go to louisck.com and buy it. You can also gift it to other people. There's a new thing on there where you can send gifts of it to other people, and they'll get a nice little thing in the email.
And how many have you sold? Do you know?
Yeah, sure I know. I mean,
do you want to say? It's not like bragging, or I don't know.
No, I already said on the website how much I had sold. I wasn't going to. I was worried it would feel like bragging, or a
little bit of a humble brag.
My mom, and my mom said, "Tell everybody and tell them right now," because people got so invested in it. Yeah, I had people writing me emails saying, "I don't even like your comedy, and I'm buying this because it's cool how you did it." People really got excited by it, and they wanted to see if it would work or not. People wanted to know if other people were like them, that other people that didn't download it who would have. Yeah. And all that kind of stuff. So I thought, I don't own this thing anymore. It's bigger than me. It's a bunch of people are interested. So even if it doesn't help me, I should tell them. It's also fun. It's such a cool thing to be part of. So I put the numbers out there. But right now, I think the last time I have a BlackBerry, and I get every 15 minutes I get sales reports, which I have to get turned off because it's a little bit obsessing.
So you got a little competitive.
Well, it's interesting to watch it go up and down. Like, it's interesting to watch the sales trends. I'm curious about everything.
Like at midnight, it starts spiking for some reason?
Well, no, it does around 1 or 2, it starts to go down. And then, but it keeps coming. Like, it trickles out. Like, the first day we went on sale, we were selling 5,000 copies an hour. Whoa. Like, all day. Just $20,000 an hour. Just bang, bang. Wow. It just kept coming. It was crazy. I was sitting in in a stall LAX bathroom on my way home, and I'm looking at my phone, and it keeps ringing up, and I started laughing. I was like, this is nuts. Like, I started giggling like the guy from Marathon Man when he gets all the Nazi.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hate to compare myself to a Nazi. But when he finds all the diamonds, he just starts giggling. I was like, this is crazy. But so then it slowed down after one day.
Yeah.
But we hit 50,000 sales in one day. And then we hit 100,000 sales in 3 days. And now it's at a 160, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's $5 each.
Congrats on everything. You're
Thanks,
an
man.
inspiration. Seriously.
Oh,
I love
you.
the fact that you've cut out everybody, basically. You're just doing your thing.
Well, to me, it's just being direct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's good.
Wouldn't cut out anybody who I need. I don't cut out everybody. I have Blair Briard, who produces my show and produced the special. She makes everything possible.
And you have your agent. You
I have my
FX
agent,
guys,
Mike
nice.
Berkowitz, that books me, and Dave Becky's my manager. These are all great guys. John Landgraf gives me that show as a gift. I have a director of photography, Paul Kessner, who I've worked with since I was a kid, and who taught me how to make movies, and he's still with me. Amy Silver, my production designer, makes everything look cool. I don't have any control over this. I just don't have anybody controlling me. That's the way I look at it. I don't need to control stuff. I can't. I like just being there and watching this stuff happen. I kind of create the opportunity and see what happens. That's the way I feel about the show. But nobody's making me do anything. I do like that.
Good. And I like that you're taking chances still.
Yeah,
Keep taking the
fun.
chances.
It's more fun. It's more fun if you might lose. It's way more fun.
I don't know how we got through this whole thing without talking about Boston, but maybe we'll have to do it another time.
All right, we'll talk about Boston
next
sometime.
time.
Yeah.
All right.
Go Red
so,
Sox.
LewisCK.com and .net, but more importantly, .com. Lewis with an S.
.com.
$5 comedy special coming up. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Please subscribe to the Grantland channel by clicking that huge button that says subscribe.